Hello and welcome to the second of these dev blogs for Global Gambit. I'm going to try and make this one a little bit more tutorial based than the first one. Okay, so first let's just have a quick recap on what we did in the last session. So we've made our map interactive, so when we click on a region it goes to this JSON file which has a hexadecimal code for each region that you can click on the map. If we run it, you can see that if we click on those regions there, they go bright white. If you click on Paris, it goes bright green because I haven't finished changing all of the original highlight colors, but essentially it does work. You can click on the other regions and it says it's clicked, even though the highlights basically just load in the same color of what I originally made. So for this session today, we're going to add a camera to navigate around the map, because there's regions we can't see at the moment, and then let's have the ability to zoom in and zoom out as well. Okay, so first of all we're going to need to add a camera to this. So you right click the main and then you find camera 2D. Okay, so I'm going to stick all my code at the bottom at the moment, but eventually I'll start moving my variables to the top when it should be, but just so I can see all my camera control stuff in one place. So I'm going to do a on ready and enable my camera 2D to work. It has to match the name of whatever you set the camera to, so I'm just going to stick it as just a standard camera 2D. We will then need a second variable that's going to tell the computer what the pan speed is, so the speed is going to move around the screen. I'm going to set it to about 400 pixels. I'm just leaving a nice helpful comment there on the screen as well. Right, after the second variable is made, we're then going to need to start making our first function, and we're going to use a process for this. Now you're going to see a term called delta. Delta, I think, is unique to Godot 4, but basically when you press the right button on your computer, if your hardware is of a certain type, it will be the same, but if you've got a weaker computer and you press right, it will be slightly different. So by using delta, we are trying to keep our process the exact same across different types of hardware. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I got that completely wrong, but that's kind of the way I've been interpreting it. Okay, so in our function we're going to refer to this handle camera movement function. So this is the second function we're going to make now. And inside of this function we're going to have all our if statements and all of them moving by a certain x or y value. So, oh yeah, we need another variable. So I'm just going to do this for one if statement and then you can see the whole thing all together, but basically I'm going to have if input is action pressed, and then you'll see that I'm going to use a thing called UI underscore up. UI underscore up is a Godot thing, and we can basically attach buttons in the project, and I'll show you that in a second. But first of all we need to have it so we can adjust our variable, so I'll move dir and we'll set it to .y, which is obviously going to be our height, and because this is going to be going up, that's all we really need. Now to set up our UI up, what you will need to do is you will need to go to project, and then you will need to go to project settings, and then on the input map. Now each one of those UI things actually has a corresponding button press in here. Now by default UI up does not have one, but if you, you can filter it, but if you scroll down eventually you will find it. And now I've already set it up, so I've added W, but if you want to use WASD you'll need to add it yourself. So notice that you'll need to do the same with down, left and right as well. So this here is all the code I've just done. So you can pause now if you're using this as a bit of a tutorial. next up we are going to test this. Okay, so during the testing I discovered that there is actually a bit of an issue with the camera controls and the code we did in the first block. So we'll just load it and you can see what the issue is. So first of all, we can move around, perfect, not a problem there. However, the issue is that now when you click on the provinces, you'll notice that they are saying the wrong thing. And that is because we're moving around the map and it looks like the map's moving, but in fact what was initially set as the region locations, they are staying where they initially were. So now we're getting all of these wrong places showing up. So we're going to need to go back and we're going to need to make some changes. Now essentially there is some lines of code in here in the unhandled, where is it? Yeah, and the unhandled input, and essentially we're going to make some changes to these two variables here, and we're not going to use strip edges anymore. Okay, so let's go back to our goals. So we're going to need to add two extra ones. We're going to add a fix to the code so the regions now move with the map. However, my fix is also going to have an issue where all my regions now need to be in uppercase. So let's go back. Okay, so back in the unhandled input, you'll notice now I've created a new variable called world position, and I'm using the get global mouse position variable. And what this is going to now do is that this caused me a lot of issues now. So I realized with the new code I'm using, all of my region hex codes were all in lowercase. With the new method of coding that I've now put into place to fix this, it all needs to be in uppercase. Luckily, just like in Python and other programming languages, we can use the .upper command to force it all to be uppercase. So now that should be working. So we're just going to test it one more time. Okay, so we can move around the map as before, and then when we click on these regions in the UK, you can see now that the highlight is working, which is fantastic. So that section is now done. So now let's focus on doing the zooming. Okay, so for zooming, we're going to need another three variables: zoom speed, zoom in, zoom max. Now, unlike the panning, where we're moving the camera up, down, left and right, we don't need to do our zoom stuff down there. So you'll notice that all of my camera control stuff is still exactly at the bottom where I've left it. But instead, to do our zoom in and zoom out, we're going to go to our unhandled input function, and then we're going to add an if statement there. So if the mouse scroll wheel up and our event is happening, we're then going to use these new underscore zoom.hex and clamp functions to be able to do this. So you can have a quick look at all the code it did for zoom in, zoom out. Now the problem with doing this, if we test it, so we can move around our screen as before, and our zoom in and zoom out does work, but it feels a bit clunky. It's not like it feels like you're pressing a button and then pressing another button. So we're going to add another extra goal for today, which is add some smoothness to the zoom in function so it's not as clunky. Okay, so to add zoom, we're going to start off by adding some extra variables. So first of all, I've made a variable called zoom smooth. I set that as a standard float 0.1, and then I've added two other variables called target position and target zoom. Right, in our function ready, we're going to add one extra line where our target zoom equals our camera zoom, so we know what our target is and what smoothness we should be aiming for. Right, all the way down to the bottom towards our camera controls, we're going to have our physics process now applying to another function called apply smoothing, and then finally we can add this last line of code right in there, and that should be it. Okay, so we're going to debug it and then just test it out one last time. So you can see I can scroll in and out. It looks a little bit more smoother, so it doesn't like stop every couple of seconds. My regions still click, and I could apply the zooming to the pan, but it didn't seem like I needed it. No, it was mainly the zoom. So back to our goals. We can now add a camera to navigate around the map. We've now fixed our code so the regions now move with the map. We've now added a fix so the regions are now all in uppercase. We've added the ability to zoom in and zoom out using the mouse scroll wheel. And then finally, we've added some smoothness to the zoom function so it's not as clunky. This video was designed to be done in a couple of minutes. I thought adding a quick camera would meant this vlog would have been quite short, but okay, well, I hope that was helpful. You got any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below, but that's it for this session, so thank you.